Unit 1, Polynomials. Our notes today will be on factoring. We will begin with practicing multiplying polynomials. When we multiply, we're going to take the outside term and multiply it by all the inside terms. This is called the distributive property. We multiply the coefficients together, 6, and then the variables x, y squared. Now, we're going to distribute the 2x times 5xy. 2 times 5 is 10. X times x is x squared. And then we have y. Multiplying. This here, the second one, which this should be b. 3x minus 5, that expression squared means write it twice. Okay. If you did something like wrote 3x squared minus 5 squared, this would be incorrect. So hopefully you're not doing that. If you have an expression and it is squared, your only option is to write it twice. All right, we're going to go ahead and distribute. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 5 is negative 15x. And then here, negative 5 times 3x is negative 15x. And then the last one, negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. When we simplify this, this is 9x squared. Negative 15 and negative 15 is negative 30. The variable is x plus 25. So here we go. The last one, if you take notice, we have 2x minus 3 and 2x plus 3. So it looks like the binomials are the same and the only difference is the signs. So what we're going to do, we are definitely going to start off by using the FOIL method or distributing twice. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. Negative 3 times 2x, negative 6x. Negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. These two cancel out. Final answer, 4x squared minus 9. Okay, this right here is called the difference of two squares. Why? Because we have a difference, which is the subtraction in the middle, and 4 is a perfect square, and so is 9. So what we did was we reviewed from our day 1 lesson, multiplying polynomials. That's going to lead us into today's lesson, which is factoring. We're going to begin with factoring trinomials and differences of squares. Notice that factoring polynomials is the reverse of multiplying polynomials. What we are going to do every time we factor, we are going to go through the following steps. First, we're going to arrange in descending order. So that means we're looking at the powers. Big powers in the front. Check it off. We already have that. So if you look, you have this x squared here. We're going to look for GCF, which is the greatest common factor. We want to see if there's anything up here in common. I don't see any numbers in common. I don't see any variables in common, but we definitely need to look for it. The next thing we want to check is the leading coefficient negative. Well, when I take a look at it, the leading coefficient right here, which is 3x, is positive. If it was negative, we would factor out a negative to make it positive. What we're going to do is we're going to check those 3 steps every time. Sometimes we have to do them. We'll see that we need to do them, and sometimes we won't. However, we can't skip steps. We have to check it each time. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to follow the steps for factoring. We need every problem to be in this form in order to get started. X squared plus bx plus c. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get our parentheses out. I call this factored form. What goes in the front of the parentheses should come out to your first term. So take a look. We have 3x squared. The only way we're going to get 3x squared is if we have a 3x here and an x here. So when we multiply back out, we would get 3x squared. Take a look at your back term, which is 2. I need the factors of 2, which are 2 and 1. So I'm going to put 2 and 1 here. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to use this, I call it a looping method, to check to see if we have it correct and to check the signs. So we're going to make a loop on the outside and a loop on the inside. Well, when I multiply my loop on the outside, I have 3x times 1, which gives me 3x. My inside loop, when I multiply, I get 2x. According to the notes down the bottom, I need those inner loops to add up to my -7, which is my middle term. I'll go ahead and color that yellow. Oops, didn't mean that. I will underline it yellow. Well, 3x and 2x will never become 7x. So we're going to have to go back to the drawing board with factoring again. So let me go ahead and get ready. Here's factored form. The initial term in the front is 3x squared. In order to get 3x squared, it's 3x and x. We tried 2 and 1. Let's switch it around and try 1 and 2. Let's see if that works. We are going to go forward with our loops. Here, 1 times x gives us x. And here, 3x times 2 gives me 6x. Now, I like this because when I take a look at my yellow, 6x and x could give me my middle term, which is -7x. Now, how could I get -7x? I need this to be negative, this term to be negative, and this term to be negative. So when I add my loops, I get -x and -6x, and it does add up to -7x. So with that in mind, this gets a negative, and this one gets a negative. So when I finally factor completely, my final answer is the expression 3x minus 1 times the expression x minus 2. Now, on the previous slide, we practiced multiplication, and you always can do that to go back and check to see if you factored it correctly. Here's our next example, example 2. What we're going to do is we're going to go through our set of rules over here, arrange in descending order. Well, it's already in descending order. I have my power of 2 here, and it's in the front. I want to look for a GCF. Are there any common terms? Let's see, 3k squared, 10k minus 8, nothing in common that I can pull out. I want to check to see if the leading coefficient is negative, and it is not. Okay, so now I can go ahead and follow the steps for factored form. I need my first term, 3x squared, to be in the front of each parenthesis. So that's, I meant 3k squared. So this is going to get 3k, and this is going to get k. When I multiply it back out, I will definitely get 3k squared. Now I want to check out -8. Whew, I got options here. And so some of my options will be, I am going to try 4 and 1. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to try my loops. And when I try my loops, this gives me 4k. And this gives me 3k. Oh, and a mistake. 4 times 1 is not 8. It's actually 4 times 2. So if that's the case, I'm going to have to erase this. And 3k times 2 will give me 6k. Okay. Well, if you look, 4k and 6k will definitely give me my middle term, which is 10k. But how will I get a -8? Is there something I can do to get a -8? Well, if I make this negative, then 6k minus 4k is not going to give me my 10k. And if I make this one negative and this one positive, I'm definitely not going to get 10k. So that tells me that my factors are incorrect. So I go back to the drawing board and start all over again. I am going to go with 3k now in k. And instead of 4 and 2, I'm going to switch it and do 2 and 4. Let's see what we get. Inner loop and outer loop. And this gives me 2k. And this one gives me 12k. Well, I need both of these to come up to my middle term, which you can see at the top is a positive 10k. Go 2k and 12k in order to get a positive 10. What I can do is I will make 2k negative and 12k positive. So 12k minus 2k will give me my 10k. And also those two numbers, 2 times 4, negative 2 times 4 will definitely give me my back term, which is negative 8. So this one over here must be negative, and this one is positive. So my final answer is 3k minus 2 times k plus 4. I could always multiply back out to check to see if my factors are correct. Here we go. One more example. We have 25x squared plus 30x plus 9. It's already arranged in descending order. When I look through each term, I don't see any common factors to take out, but I always have to check. When I look at my leading coefficient, it is positive, so I don't have to worry about factoring out a negative. And now I'm going to go ahead and set up factor form and get started. I want what's in parentheses first to come out to 25x squared, so that means I need 5x and 5x. I could try 25 and 1, but I'm not today. My back term, which is 9, 3 and 3, or I could try 9 and 1. And as you can see, sometimes it takes a couple of practices to get it right. Now what I want to do is I want to loopity-loop. Here I get 15x. And on the outside loop, 5x times 3 gives me 15x. I want to check out my middle term in yellow, which I call that my linear term. I need my two loops to come out to that linear term. 15x and 15x will definitely become 30x. So I need both signs to be positive here. Put it in another color. I need this to be positive and this to be positive. Final answer is 5x plus 3 times 5x plus 3. We always save in writing. So when we write this, we actually put 5x plus 3 and we raise it to the second power. And this is factoring completely. Here we go with example 4. We're going to arrange in descending order. However, I do see that my x cubed is in the back. So I'm going to rewrite this, and I'm going to put negative 48x cubed in the front plus 27xy squared in the back, and I have arranged it in descending order. I also want to look for a GCF, and I do see a GCF. I have x to the third power and x to the first power. So I have an x in common, and 48 and 27 definitely have a 3 in common. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out a 3x, and let's see what we have left. So here I get 16x squared, because 3 times 16 will definitely give me 48. And that reminds me that I need a negative. So 3x times something will give me 27 xy squared. So I know that's going to be 9, because 3 times 9 is 27 x, and then this is y squared. Check it off. We did the GCF. Next, we want to check to see if our leading coefficient is negative. And when I look at it, that 16 has a negative in front of it. So what I want to do is I want to factor out the negative. Factor out the negative. So when I factor out the negative and pull it out, I will get a negative in front of my 3x. And now everything on the inside of parentheses, the sign will change. Okay? And it will not change the problem. So now this is 16x squared minus 9y squared. If you hesitate or think that you made an error, you could always go back and multiply to make sure you're on the right track. Well, if I think I'm finished, that will be incorrect, because I have to factor completely. When I look at this here, I see a difference of 2 squares. And so 16x squared minus 9y squared gives me 4x and 4x and 3y and 3y. Because it's a difference of squares, one is going to be positive and the other is going to be negative. We also cannot forget to always bring down your GCF. And so the final answer here is negative 3x times the expression 4x plus 3y times the expression 4x minus 3y. This is called factoring completely. This one here is your fifth example. To factor the polynomial, we're going to start by putting it in descending order, large powers in the front. Oh, we have it. We're going to look for GCF, something that each term has in common and it doesn't have anything. Is the leading coefficient negative? Nope. So we can continue to go on without factoring out. What I noticed that's different about this problem is that now we're not dealing with x squared, we're dealing with x to the fourth. I'm not going to let this trip me up. I'm going to go ahead and put in my factored form, which is my parentheses. And what would I need in the front in order to get out x to the fourth power? I need x squared and x squared. What do I need in the back in order to get out 12? Well, there's plenty of combinations. We could do 12 and 1, 6 and 2, and 4 and 3. I think I'm going to go with 4 and 3 this time. Here is 4 and 3. What I want to do is do my little loops. This one gives me 4x squared. This one gives me 3x squared. And when I look at my middle term up here in yellow, this is -1, which tells me that if my 4x squared is negative and my 3x squared is positive, I will definitely get that -1 out when I go back to multiply it back out. So a negative goes here and a positive goes here. So I write down what I have: x squared minus 4 times the expression x squared plus 3x, plus 3. Well, I noticed that this could be factored some more because it's a difference of two squares. So I do x plus 2, x minus 2, and then this right here cannot be factored anymore, and it is x squared plus 3. And this is the final answer. Let's take a look at this one. Yes, it looks weird, but what we're going to do is we're going to stick to our steps. We're going to arrange in descending order, highest powers in the front, and I see it. We're going to look for a GCF. I see a X and an X. I see a Y and a Y, but I don't see anything that all three have, so there's no GCF. The leading coefficient is not negative, so I don't have to factor. And now I'm going to get ready for factor form. I noticed that this is x to the fourth, so in my first set of parentheses, I need to put something in that would give me x to the fourth, and that'll be x squared and x squared. Want to take a look at my back term, which is 4y squared, and in order to get that, I could try 2y and 2y. Now I need to figure out how to get this middle term, and my loops are going to help me with that. So my inner loop right here is going to give me 2x squared y, and my outer loop is going to give me 2x squared y. Well, as I look at this, 2x and 2x is going to give me 4x, and there is no possible way that these two can be added or subtracted to give me my middle term at the top. So that means those are not the right factors. So I go back to the drawing board again. My first term is x squared and x squared, and I am going to try 4y and 1y. Let's do our loops. This will give me 4x squared y, and this one will give me 1x squared y. Ooh, I like it. Now I need this to come out to my middle term, which I'm putting in yellow. So a 4x and a 1x. How can I get that to be -3x? Well, I'll make this one negative and I'll make this one positive. So I'm going to come up here and put a negative, and over here and make it a positive. Nice. So now I'm going to write down my final answer, or see if I can factor some more. I definitely cannot factor anymore. X squared minus 4y is not a difference of squares because my y is not squared. Therefore, this is the final answer. Wasn't too bad, but when we looked at it and saw all those x's and all those y's, it could be nerve-wracking. Alrighty. If you are interested in doing some extra practice, here is a website that you can jot down, tinyurl.com /1QPBUDS. Oh no, that's not a 1, that's a L. Terrible, can't read my own handwriting or typing. So try that for extra practice, and thank you for joining.